You're watching Morning at NTV.
Welcome back to Uganda's #1 breakfast show. This is Morning at NTV and you're with me, Malaki Vilodera. Of course, we taking our responses from that particular question that we posted on social media, of course, asking you, what are your thoughts with regards to the contradicting views that are coming from these two government officials? We're talking about Ms. Rebecca Kadaga, the Speaker of Parliament, her saying that 24 billion Uganda shillings was actually embezzled, that was pretty much set aside for the construction of a bridge atop Isimba Dam. And on the other side, we do have the Energy Minister, Ms. Irene Muloney, saying that she's not aware of any funds that have been embezzled. So on social media, we're asking you, what are your thoughts with regards to these contradicting views that are coming through? So I'll start on Facebook with Sanura. You're saying, I now know why the speaker was actually invited in Chisozi. All right, still sticking to Facebook, I do have Musime James. You're saying, embezzling government funds is now normal. However, the question will be whether the dam is working as expected. If that's so, then she should let that be. Corruption and embezzlement of public funds can't end in this regime. Thank you so much for your views. Keep them coming. #morning at NTV. Let me switch over to Ramji Krishna. You're saying it's easy. It means some section didn't receive their share of the cake. All right. Kiron, still on Facebook, you're telling me, I think the Speaker, Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, should clearly come out and put those names on the table. Whoever you think was among the fund embezzlement will definitely not accept. Of course, this coming from her articulation saying that she already gave the president, of course, way back in March, the names of the people behind this particular theft, as we can call it that, of course, the embezzlement of the 24 billion Uganda shillings. All right, Kalibala George Wilson, you're telling me need for Butcherman and Zipapa to intervene in this matter. Of course, on a comic note, thank you so much. All right, let's flip over to Twitter, and at Hakim Stifler, you're saying, one of them is right, another is lying. Okay. So who's lying, who's not? #morning at NTV. On Twitter, still on Twitter, at Giga160, you're saying, I thought there was a list of names. Why was that not made public, since the funds embezzled were meant for a project that is for the public and the taxes, of course, and the taxpayer too? Pertinent issue raised right there. Thank you so much at Giga160. Still on Twitter at Ikitsralea, okay. And you're saying confusion in the House needs a reset, okay. Let's go back to Facebook. And I do have Atabua Adriano. You're saying the Speaker has a point, that project must be investigated. Keep them coming. #morning at NTV. Let's continue with that conversation. Of course, you can also tag me directly at Malaki Vilodera or at Romy Busiku. He's following through with our conversations. Let's take a breather and I'll be back with a Take Note conversation, of course, touching on health and cancer. And of course, what our children ought to know with regards to the same. What part can they play, of course, as we try to gear up efforts to fight cancer in the country.
In Uganda, 12% of young girls are married by the age of 15 years and 46% married by age of 18. About 55% of female survivors of sexual violence are children. Prosecution remains low, denying thousands of children and women access to justice. Gender-based violence harms girls and women, prevents them from realizing their full potential, and affects us all. Say no to gender-based violence.
Supported by NTV.
The Speaker of NTV's People's Parliament, in partnership with Pelham Uganda and Cordiad, invite the people of Bududa District for a session of NTV's People's Parliament at the Bududa District Council Hall on Tuesday, 26th November 2019 at 9 a.m. Come join the discussion on issues related to integrated risk management in development agenda. Kindly keep time. On the next episode...
Yes, I do, Father. The priest finishes and we marry them in a civil wedding, Your
I
Honor.
have everything ready. Tomorrow morning, I register the marriage at the registry office, and by the afternoon, your niece and your nephew will be married, also before the law.
Hurry, Manuela, let's go!
Come on!
Let's go! Hurry!
Come on!
Let's go!
Let's go! Let's go! Put out that light, please. It hurts me. It hurts me.
But the light is... It's not that bright, Genaro. There's only light coming from the candles.
Put it out.
On the next episode. You're watching Morning at NTV.
Welcome back to Morning at NTV. Many thanks for still staying with us. Let's get directly into a Take Note conversation. Now, the cancer scourge is one of the most expensive killers in the country. Unfortunately, awareness is still low, yet this particular disease requires early detection. And of course, we're looking at different facets that are coming through to help us fight this. Now, the Uganda Child Cancer Foundation is trying to change all this by creating awareness from the ground up. Now, the foundation is doing this through a program called Child Caring for Cancer and is creating what they are calling 3C clubs in schools. Now, through these clubs, they try to get children to care about cancer by creating awareness, getting children involved in the fight against cancer, amongst other efforts. So today we have, of course, one of these pretty much program directors, and I do have Mr. Ben Ikara. He is the program director at the Uganda Child Cancer Foundation right here in the country. Many thanks for joining us, sir, and welcome to Morning at NTV.
Thank you, Mara. Thank you.
All right. So let me start with this particular program. It's amazing. In schools, we see quite a number of clubs, but this is a special club. When did you come up with this idea?
The idea we started, thank you first for having us here.
You're welcome.
And good morning, viewers. We actually started this as a result of seeing how cancer was attacking families through the children. And I personally joined a foundation at the Uganda Cancer Institute as a volunteer. And when we looked at what was happening with the families, when cancer hit a family through a child, it was disaster. There were a lot of theories, and there was issue to do with awareness, but also panic in terms of losing the little child in the home, who is the future of the family. And then there are theories about lack of what cancer is. Others may not be knowing. The families across come up with different theories. So ideally, we saw that how best can we begin to break the myth? How best can we bring to hope to the society that is hit by cancer, especially at a household level? So one, the children are really very passionate. When children see problems, even if it's adult or a fellow child, they get to connect. They have this sympathy that comes from innocent background. And again, when the children connected with the fellow children, the children that are well, they saw the children that were seeing these horrible tumors and stuff like that, these children were really able to ask very, very powerful questions. What causes cancer in children? Why is it that, how can we remove cancer from children? What are the things that we can do? How can I help, And we noticed that actually children can be a very strong voice, as little as they can.
So when you say children, what is the age group that you're looking at?
We're looking at the child in terms of support, because again, the foundation is it was an internal charity for the Uganda Cancer Institute that was engineered by the staff and parents who lost their children to cancer by then in 2006. So when we joined, we realized that these children were not only babies, but we realized that from the age of 2 years to actually, let's say in terms of patients, the beneficiaries, we are looking at children from baby to the extent of 18 years. But in terms of advocates that we're talking about, the children caring about cancer, our target group is a child who is able to say something from nursery school to secondary school. And these are people who are age of 18 years. So we are really dealing with the youth and the children in the house.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm critical to look at how your approach is towards the nursery going child,
Yeah.
nursery school going child. And how are you able to coin the messaging? Because you know that at the same time, children are quite sensitive.
Yeah.
So how is the messaging like? Because I know the messaging that is in the nursery, you know, school club, so to speak, is different from a university club or a
Exactly.
secondary school
Exactly.
club. So how are you able to coin the messaging such that these young babies are not scared, but pretty much take on this information and play their role in the fight against cancer? How do you do it?
That's a very good one. Let me speak like a traditional advocate. This time we're not speaking as doctors. Because again, we are the majority that are hit by disasters like cancer and things like that.
Right.
You know, when a child is seeing things, for example, when we're looking at the Cancer Institute, there are children who are affected by tumors that are related to the hygiene or probably how the tooth was extracted, how the family hygiene was kept, and they link to infections. Infection reduces the what I would call the immunity of a child, and when now there are these other conditions, then the child's survival becomes very limited. So in this case, we encourage children at that age to appreciate how do you manage what's the benefit of keeping your teeth clean? What's the benefit of brushing before you go to sleep? What's the benefit of avoiding things like all the time I need ice cream, I need sausage, I need this. So then you relate it with the practical life, because these are lifestyle issues at some point. So you realize that at that point, we bring in when the child asks that why is so and so not like this, probably you need to avoid this. One of the simple things you can do is eat well, enjoy eating your vegetables, enjoy eating after eating your vegetables, eat a fruit, because majority of little kids at that age do not want to eat. So that's the simple piece that we share with them. And then of course when we are supporting others, they begin to learn to appreciate that you need to be one of the people who are change agents.
Right.
What can I do? You can play with your friends, you can encourage them, you can read stories, you can draw a card and send to them.
Yeah.
That is at that point of really palliative or care or providing health services in terms of supportive care. Because at the level of a child to child, when they play and they write a card and they draw things, they send cards to the kids in the wards, or maybe who are taking time to, to get treatment.
And that's powerful because you see, especially when it comes to the lifestyle, a majority of parents will tell you the reason as to why they buy certain snacks for their children is because the children influence them to do it.
Exactly.
So if this child is actually enlightened that, baby, such a drink is not good for you.
Exactly.
Such a snack is not good for you. At least, it will make the work easier for the parent as well.
So that's that step. Now the second step is now those who want to do something in this at home, the society, and move on. So we quickly started seeing how best we can now send awareness to the household. Who are the change agents? So again, in the house, if you have a teenager who is at the secondary level, senior 1, senior 2, senior 3, they are the people who champion things in the house. So we found it prudent to start mobilizing young people in secondary schools. And so 2006 is when now we introduced the young people to be part of the cancer fight. And 2006 we started with Namagunga, Gayaza, SMAC, and then King's College Budo. So when we formed those first clubs, these young people took it up and started understanding, asking powerful questions. So we worked with the Cancer Institute medical team to really break down to these young people what cancer is, defining what a cancer is, and going through all these processes, and then what they can do as young people.
Right. I was looking through the statistics, and it's worrying that now cancer is actually ravaging children. And I was listening to one of course, the Ministry of Health officials, and they were saying that out of 100,000, we do have 300 cases of child cancers. And time immemorial, some years back, let's call it 30 years or more, we didn't have child cancer. You'd hear of cancer, actually when the conversation of cancer came to the fore, you'd hear of cancer and think it's either the middle age or old age. But now it's with our children as well. So when you talk of lifestyle and all these other facets, it's critical. But my question to you is, how are we able to understand the real cause over and above lifestyle for our children? Because, when you're a child, much of everything you do and, eat is controlled by a parent who is well enlightened. So why are we having these cases on the rise with regards to children? And yet, they're the ones who are well taken care of, as opposed to us adults who have, you know, strict timelines. We end up indulging, but for our children, we're always cautious and we plan for their meals as well. So what could be the real cause?
Yeah, that's a very fundamental question when it comes to cancer. But I want to really, again, to answer this as an advocate, not as a doctor. But in terms of what we have picked up after being these really passionate advocates, we learned that childhood cancers are very difficult to define the cause. That is the fundamental. And that's why you find that it is now, when technology awareness is picking up, we are now beginning to think that cancer in children is at a rise. But again, scientifically, if people went maybe way back and started doing this, cancer in children has been there as early as 50s. There's the child cancers where the childhood cancers are there. The question now is, what are the other factors that cause this kind of, you know, situations to increase? From what we pick, what experts say is clearly linked to also infections. Of course, now you see there are also issues to do with the environment. There are also issues to do with the genetic makeup of these children, and some of them are really linked to the infections that they pick up over time, and then they move on to this kind of situation. So as a foundation, we are looking at the impact these different cancers in children were causing to the families. And of course, any ordinary family would get ravaged because of not understanding. And we said, let's look at, one, how does a family deal with the cancer in the house? How does the next family begin to look at? So the early diagnosis, being vigilant to the families, to the children, and of course looking at things like I mentioned earlier on, if a child picks an infection in the tooth and the tooth is mismanaged, some of these things, and what we pick and what I learned over time is that children react so fast. And you find if they pick up an infection, the body system of a child is very fast in responding or reacting. And that alone causes the child cells to begin acting abnormally. Eventually, you begin relating this to, and you find that cancers begin to come in the children.
You know, you talk about that, and it also reminds me of one of the critical issues that are coming to the fore with regards to late detection. And following through with this particular 3C program, a majority of the beneficiaries came out to say that, but my case was a misdiagnosis, whereby a child is taken to a health center and the diagnosis reads malaria or X infection, and they're treated for that, and yet at the core root it's not that, it's actually cancer. So as an advocate, what programs do you have to ensure that also the health, you know, centers are equipped with, is it resources and skills to be able to diagnose accurately?
Yeah, so what we've been able to do for us from the 3C program, we have been able to see that information is key. We first want to understand what cancer is, what are the issues. So we realized that even within the network of health workers, there are some experts or some health workers who have little knowledge about cancer. And then you realize that the services are limited to major hospitals. And then you find most of our people cannot reach the major hospitals. And awareness then triggers, our awareness triggers them to answer our questions. Because once these young people have picked the knowledge about cancer and they have seen the burden of cancer in the society, we have been able to see that our young people ask those powerful questions, that how can I get screened? For example, when we go to do, because our model is when we go to the school, we raise awareness to the whole school. And the doctors talk about cancer across the board, the different types of cancer, the risk factors, what you can do, and that kind of stuff. Some girls quickly come up, especially when we talk about breast cancer, and they begin to relate with their body changes and say, oh, my breast was paining last time, I had painful this, is that relating to cancer? Where do I go to? So now these advocates trigger our key stakeholders to begin looking at when people are flooding to facilities for screening, for example, what should we do? And indirectly, we are causing change. Indirectly, we are not coming to confront our Ministry of Health or our providers that we need this. But the questions alone are giving them to realize that there are more people now asking for cancer screening.
That's powerful.
And that is how our advocacy has been caused by young people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's powerful, because as we wrap this up, that means that we are raising a generation that is cancer aware.
Exactly.
Because, you know, cancer is not a killer disease. Early detected, if early detected, there's cure. And of course, once that is sorted out with this coming generation, and of course you're saying there are change drivers in our homes, that's quite powerful. You're now in 95 schools, and we are growing the numbers, so to speak. In a nutshell, as we wrap this up, let me give you 1 minute. Do let us in on the activities that are in your pipeline with regards to the same, and what you'd like the viewers to know in terms of them jumping on board to make sure that these activities are actually a success.
Yeah, so we've moved to so many schools countrywide, and of course with the little resources that we're able to get here and there. Mainly we have been supported by the Cancer Institute, and the Cancer Institute has been able to we have been able to leverage on transport, technical support in terms of setting these clubs. But now there is need to sustain these clubs. The clubs that we opened way back are now doing programs. We need to begin things that, like for example, vegetable growing for healthy eating is a culture issue. These kids have picked this concept. They are now doing these things countrywide. We have also come up with annual programs where we have retreats for patrons that support the students in schools. We have also come up with regional events. We want to see that there are events that bring together young people to learn. This December 1st to 5th, we are having a camp at Gayaza, where we are calling young people who are 3C members and are joining us to really share learning from different schools and different parts of the country. We have partners that come in and support us, but we need more. And one of the key things that we want now is to come up with a youth hub, where all these young people can be mentored with different skills, the health teams, the planners, the mentors, and all that kind of stuff.
All right. Thank you so much for coming through, and we wish you all the best. We'll do everything we can to support this particular amazing program. That was Mr. Ben Ikara, the program director from the Uganda Child Cancer Foundation. Keep your views coming on #morning@NTV. At this point in time, I'd like to link directly to Mr. Stephen Bida. Stephen, you're on ground with something interesting for us this morning. What do you have in store?